the analytical mindset has evolved greatly in terms of not only skill set, but adaptability and technology and being a technologist as well. Like it's very important to not just place ads, understand where the ads are, where they're going and how they're performing in a full circle. The analytical and data science side is very key nowadays.
Welcome to The Marketing Report, a podcast created for and by marketing professionals who seek to better understand their consumers and design unique, personalized experiences that stand out in today's market. In each episode, hosts from Verisk Marketing Solutions connect you to industry thought leaders, practitioners, and experts focused on improving B2C experiences through powerful data-driven insights. It's about how we connect with our consumers and where we can partner together to do it better. This is The Marketing Report.
Hello, and welcome to the Marketing Report podcast. My name is Tim Finnegan. I'm the host of this great podcast where we have industry experts come on and we talk not only about marketing, but we talk about leadership, we talk about industry trends, and hopefully and some takeaways about how to be better data-driven marketers. I'm the host, Tim Finnegan, and I'm Director of Product Marketing at Verisk Marketing Solutions, as well as I'm adjunct instructor teaching marketing strategy. This is a great episode because we've got the best person I know that can talk about insurance industry trends is Ethan Jones, and he is SVP of Insurance at Castera. And Ethan, I'm going to have you talk a little bit about your background, but you've also been SVP at QuinStreet. You've been on the brand side with insurance, but welcome to the podcast, Ethan.
Thank you, Tim, for that amazing introduction. I'm humbled by that. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to pull me into this. I was humbled when you guys asked, and I'm very excited to kind of talk about not only data and insurance, but some industry trends we're seeing and how some of technology and use cases that are out there are going to help, evolve us through this tough market into a stronger soft market in the next few years. So I'm very excited to be here and can't thank you enough for making the time.
So Ethan, just to give people sort of a background on you, we don't need to go the way back machine, but sort of your
the gray hair gives it away.
Yeah. And well, what people don't know when they watch this video or they listen to it, they have no idea you're about 7'4". I think that's maybe that's a little, maybe I'm
a little overshot, but yes.
So tell us what you do at Castera and like what you're most responsible for.
Yeah, no problem, Tim. So I've joined Castera about a year and a half ago. And like you said, I've been in the industry for coming up almost on 20 years in the insurance and marketing industry and technology side. And us at Castera, we kind of went on a mission here to understand, marketing as a whole is a very powerful, vertical and use case within the insurance market. As we know, a lot of companies spend, billions of dollars to acquire customers. And oftentimes there's a lot of different strategies how to approach that. But we at Castera feel that performance is paramount. And, it's one thing to spend dollars. It's another thing to make sure that they actually back into an LTV to CAC that is always moving and always adapting based on market conditions. And as we know, the past, couple of years have been a pretty tough market in insurance, especially the personal line areas. So we've been on this mission as a whole to help not only carriers figure out how to acquire customers, but how to right price the customers down to a very granular level. And that's why we came out with our marketing orchestration platform, Beacon. And, as a whole, we've been working very closely with several partners to kind of entrench that, gain learnings and expand on that. Because, as an insurance marketing leader, they're often, tasked with driving business profitability by growing the company, driving ROI, and making real-time decisions across multiple different channels of media. And oftentimes the agility and flexibility can be a challenge. And that's where our mission is to help them be smarter, faster, better at a very tough job. And, be partners within the organization to say, marketing is kind of the tip of the spear oftentimes to say, this is what our customer profiles look like. And do they align from a product market fit from our actuarial and product teams to make sure that there's a holistic flywheel to generate the right customer in the right moment at the right time for the right price?
So, Ethan, I assume that you get a lot of feedback from the carriers that you work with. What are some of the things, maybe harder questions there or top of mind? I know that, there's with the industry and, with the markets being down a little, but what are they asking you for? Like what are some top of mind things that they're wanting to know?
I think it varies by, each partner and each company, but as a whole, initially the reaction was to pull back responsibly and figure out how I can be responsible of pulling back with limited marketing dollars and high customer demand to say, where is the right customer for my current situation? And that is how we've kind of helped them kind of target the right customer in a very micro level, because, when the market's tailwinds are strong, there's a stronger appetite to grow. And when the market's tough as it is now, it's how to be more mindful about growth. And they're asking a lot of questions about how I can find this particular cohort of customer at this allowable. And we've seen, the acquisition allowables have gone down significantly during these harder times. So people have had to do a lot more with less. And that also includes not only marketing dollars, but operations as well. They're doing a lot more with less, people driving the marketing decisions, which is tough. It's a very tough situation. So as a whole, it's how they can be better and more efficient in the current state. And that's what we're often getting asked about. It's just kind of those questions of, we know it's tough. How can we be better? And how can we be more efficient and right priced and target focused?
So Ethan, when you talk about target focused and back to what you said a little while ago about the right customer, that screams personalization and, sort of let's focus on quality and not quantity. Is that, how are the carriers responding to that?
No, I think that's a very strong message right now, because not only, insurance is not just about marketing and about product and things. This is involving humans' lives and how they rebuild each person's life in a moment of, extreme angst, because, people have insurance for a reason to plan for the worst and then hope it never happens. So it's about finding the right consumer in the right moment at the right price with the right, potential lifetime value. And that varies greatly across insurance. That's why I love insurance. It's not, in marketing and insurance is a very complex model that everyone's always evolving. It's, much different than other, marketing that's far more widget based. And insurance is a very complex problem that needs to be solved and is always evolving. So that's why I love it. It's a very challenging market, but as a whole, it's an incredibly great community of people as a whole. And it's just a fun place to operate in. That's why I haven't left insurance in 20 years, because the people are great and the problems are always evolving to solve.
I've never heard the word fun and an insurance in the same sentence, but I learn something every day.
If you'd ask 22-year-old Ethan, would he have considered insurance? No. What happens is no one comes out and goes, I really want to get into insurance. It becomes a labor of love and a great community of people to operate within.
And sometimes when you talk about marketing and insurance, sometimes it's easier because you're looking at real numbers and not just, you talked about a widget or, more on the retail side where it's just, we just need to get numbers. So I could see how you could fall in love with that and saying, okay, especially if you're data driven, numbers driven. So, and my next question doesn't really have to be for the insurance, but, maybe if you go back to January 23 and you say, okay, what are the important trends that are going to happen? Did they come true? Did things get derailed? Like what sort of happened from January to now?
That is an extremely loaded question, Tim, in a good way, especially in these market conditions. So I think as a whole, coming out of COVID, it was kind of every few months, there was a new instance of pressure within the market. There's a lot of inflationary pressures, a lot of labor pressures, a lot of return to work pressures and people returning to driving pressures that, were very tough to forecast. So coming into 2023, a lot of the industry thought, okay, we feel like we might be in a better place, might be in a very key word there, but the story isn't written yet. And there's going to be new challenges that are, uncovered as the year comes. So I think there was optimism to start the year. I think as the year progressed, a lot of this information is public. It became a tougher year in terms of losses, claims frequency, and severity. And, there was even some regulatory pressures around a lot of that as well. But as it has evolved, I think people within the industry have learned to be more agile, be more efficient, and do a lot more with limited resources, and even starting to look to adopt additional technology, data, so they can be smarter as a whole. And I think coming out of this, the whole industry will be stronger. It's going to look and feel slightly different in some areas, but as a whole, insurance isn't going anywhere. It's just always evolving and adapting. And I think 2023 was the best laid plans adapted as we went month to month. And it's looked a lot different throughout the year than anyone expected, which is okay. And I think, people are feeling a little more optimistic about a measured, comeback of the market in 2024, but it's going to be a measured comeback. And, I think that's okay because there's been a challenging few years as a whole, and the industry is going to come out stronger because of it.
So with that same theme, so now we're coming up to 2024. I'm sure you've had to do your 2024 plans. And so what are you keeping your eye on? I'm sure it's some type of AI in the market, but what are some, and maybe connect that to some marketing functions or data-driven functions? Like what are you thinking about for 2024?
I think as a whole, we're very optimistic. The big theme is around data utilization. So, we've both worked, with a lot of data at different companies, Tim. And I think there's a lot of different iterations of, if you recall back to the 2000s, big data was the big theme of things. And then, it kind of went into how we evolve the big data and implement the big data, whether it be through telematics, modeling, things like that. And now we're kind of evolving into the, new buzzword of artificial intelligence or AI and how that can be, implemented within the data structure. But I think the big theme of 2024 is there's going to be a lot more utilization of data, and there's going to be a lot more cross-organizational data that needs to come together to kind of rebuild, how marketers look at consumers, how carriers as a whole figure out where the new normal is in terms of customers in the market. And there's been a lot of, increase in rating across the whole country where the consumers are continuing to shop. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of good news out there the past 12 to 18 months because the rate base has gone up significantly. So I think data utilization with all of those micro and macro moving factors are just going to be very key to understand if I'm growing, is it a good thing, first of all? And if I'm growing at an acceptable rate, can I continue to grow at that acceptable rate across the industry? Because the last few years have really challenged the normal of big data in terms of historically insurance companies as a whole have more data than almost any industry and know more about their consumers than most industries out there just because they get to know their consumer, they're mindful of the consumer. But a lot of that data, Tim, in some instances has not necessarily been thrown out the window, but had to be rebuilt to say, is this who my goods customers are? Is this who my consumers I'm concerned about are? And how do I harness more of the good consumers? Because it's been very disruptive across the entire industry for all of the factors we just talked about. So I think utilization and mindfulness of how you use data will be key. Now, where AI as the buzzword of 2023 into 2024 is, I think there are a lot of good use cases for AI. I think a lot of them are still scary. Some of them are exciting, but as a whole, we look at it as artificial intelligence shouldn't be the final decision maker. It should help the people like you and me and the marketers and the companies out there mine data faster, find insights and help make recommendations. But ultimately, we feel strongly that the humans should make the final decisions. They'll just have, it should be an additional tool to help us move faster.
Yeah. Ethan, I go back to your point about big data. It was the buzz was, all right, we need to just get as much data as we can and as much data as we can. And now it's like, hey, we need to get quality data. We need to make sure we're getting insights from that. So if you could just I would love for you just to touch on our partnership and how you utilize some of our data.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very valid point, because big data is only as good as how you actually leverage it. And our partnership's been longstanding. It kind of started out as a strong compliance partnership, which is very key in the industry we're in, to make sure, one, that we have all the compliance tools in place. And you guys have been an excellent partner in helping us navigate through those compliance situations and make sure that we have comfort with that in our customer journeys, not only for us, but our end, partners as well. And then we've started to go on a lot more journeys around augmenting data sets with our partnership. And it's, to your point, we're adding more big data to the platform as a whole. And part of that is, what learnings are we getting together about how this data is impactful? And I think as a whole, it's been a very fun journey since we've kind of gone down this bigger data path together. And the story is still, constantly being adapted around that. But we're starting to say, okay, we know about what this customer looks like, who our partners are, and how can we augment that data to make it more of an enriched customer experience. It can help with better precision around targeting, which is very key. And ultimately, it'll help create a better customer journey and help our end partners, on the insurance side, be more targeted to say, not only do I know what Tim Finnegan looks like, where Tim Finnegan came from, but I now know a lot more about Tim Finnegan in terms of a lot of customer attributes that our partnership is helping augment, which is key, because it's enriching the data, which is helping with targeting. And, that's our core focus at Custera, is not only to capture more data, but help to harness it, leverage it, and put it in market.
So Ethan, when you talk to carriers or any, this could be anybody, because when I think of when you talk about data insights and augmenting data, what would be your top 3 things if you're talking to a marketer that they need to start thinking about in data insights?
It's kind of it goes back to how you simplify a complex problem, and a couple ways. One, having AI mine the data and find insights to say, this looks good, this looks bad. With the bad, what is the decision and the recommendation you make in terms of how you minimize the bad opportunities, and then how you reinvest that into good opportunities. And, there's millions and millions of permutations of data within the industry. And also in market, in the moment when the consumer's in their journey, there's, a lot of data that can be harnessed there. And it's also helping. It should be a tool that is, the way we see it, is a tool that's leveraged to help make the end decision, but give you a lot of the cheat sheet of what decision to make without having to solve the whole problem yourself. And I think as a whole, it's still early in the AI aspects. There's a lot of use cases for it, but I think there's some, strengths and weaknesses of how it gets leveraged. But as a simple problem, you have a lot of data, how to harness the data and how to mine the data, and then effectively make change of that. Because there are a lot of times there's big data analysis by paralysis is the word we like to use. It helps remove some of the paralysis.
Yeah, Ethan, when you were saying that, maybe think back, it's still marketing foundation, these marketing principles. It's get the data, find the insights from the data, and then decision upon them. Now there's just a bunch of technology that helps you do that. And there's companies like you that are really good at helping you decision on those data questions and those lead questions.
Oh, yes. And, if you think back 20, 30, 40 years ago, marketing has evolved. It's still finding the consumer in the right moment at the right time in their decision process. That hasn't changed. There's just quite a few more mediums of where customers are nowadays than there was 20, 30, 40 years ago between, social media, streaming, digital, offline, linear, everything. It's a lot. And as that has happened, not everyone's watching CBS News at the same time at 6 p.m. as they were 30, 40 years ago. Now people are consuming their content in so many different mediums that you have to figure out when is the right point to inject your marketing tactics and then making sure that it's measurable downstream as well. So it's a much more complex problem, but at the same time, there's more complexities. There's better technology on the flip side to also help you mine through all of that noise.
So Ethan, when you talk about 30, 40 years ago, is the skill set of a marketer different than now? Or what would you look for skill set of someone new coming into, say, Castera and saying, oh, this is the type of, skill set we need?
I think it varies greatly in terms of what your marketing mission is, in terms of between branding and performance and digital, all of those opportunities still have very focused skill sets, but as a whole, the analytical prowess is becoming much more in demand in the marketing piece. It's not more, building a brand is incredibly important, but then executing on that is also extremely critical as well. And the analytical mindset has evolved greatly in terms of not only skill set, but adaptability and technology and being a technologist as well. Like it's very important to not just place ads, understand where the ads are, where they're going and how they're performing in a full circle. It's a lot. And the analytical and data science side is very key nowadays in, 2023, 2024 marketing skill sets.
I agree. I agree with you because I remember going through undergrad and analytics was not really talked about. It was business stats, but not the same. And I think as marketing, it was more like retail marketing and big brand marketing. And I think B2B marketing was sort of this, I was like stepchild. I'm not saying stepchildren are bad, but it seems like an outlier of marketing. So I agree with you. So
my last impression share was all like, regardless, like it was all about how you find the eyeballs and how you get in front of the eyeballs and then figure it out from there. Now it's like how you get in front of the right customer in the moment and does the math back out long-term as well. It's evolved a lot.
Yeah. It's like, I remember when I got out of sales and went into marketing, I was tired of having a number on my head of, sales objective. But what I realized is everybody has a number on their head. It's just easier to quantify if you're in sales because marketing still needs to prove, ROI on their technology and their campaigns and things like that. So Ethan, my last question, I'm going to bring you back on the podcast next year, end of the year, crystal ball, what are you going to be saying differently than you are right now? Or as a look back, you're like, oh, hey, we made some good decisions and this is what happened.
Well, first and foremost,
welcome back.
Welcome back. Thank you. As a whole, I just, am very optimistic that the insurance industry as a whole will be in a much stronger standing and not just, repeating the old, but also how we've evolved as an industry to say, are we better? Are we more predictable as a whole? And, I just want the whole industry to be stronger because I think it's a very important industry to me personally in terms of that on a personal and professional level. But I just, I'm very hopeful that a lot of the challenges that have been endured the last few years have made us all better and stronger as a whole. And not only are we reverting back to the mean in terms of how we used to do things, but we're doing things that are much more innovative and much more data centric and far more predictable just because hopefully there are ways we can avoid the past few years in terms of getting out in front of it earlier it was a very unprecedented situation because of COVID. So my hope is we're bigger, stronger as a whole industry at the end of 2024. And we're feeling very bullish about the future.
Great. And I don't think anybody can be bigger than you because your 6'8" frame is towering over everybody. And I hope the insurance industry is towering again. So Ethan, I can't wait to have you back. You were great. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Tim, it was a pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it's always fun to catch up with you on the personal and professional level. So thank you very much for the time. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Marketing Report. This show is brought to you by Verisk Marketing Solutions, an organization created to help CMOs and their partners improve the reach, timing, relevance, and compliance of every consumer engagement. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to The Marketing Report wherever you get your podcasts, and check out the show notes for more information.